Hello everyone, it is I, the Fable of Fables, your new best friend. How you guys doing? You all seem to really enjoy when I learn about Gundam stuff, and to be honest, I'm really enjoying learning about the like the production history, the models and stuff like that. To be honest, I'm more interested in the aquatic units. I'm not really sure how I can explain it. Maybe it's just their designs, or the fact that many of them are shaped like eggs, or just really round boys, and they walk incredibly funny. It's beautiful. So anyway, we're reacting to even more this time. We're gonna react to the I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm not doing it on purpose, guys. I'm sure Sloth Cakes will pronounce it for me. But yeah, let's go.
Hello everyone, Slothcakes here, and welcome to another episode of Amphibious Analysis. So
Yeah.
sit back and relax, and let me introduce our guest of honor today, and that's gonna be the MSM-04N Agguguy. Or if you want to pronounce it
Agguguy. There we go.
Agguguy, that's fine by me. But this is a variant of the 8 guy, which we have covered
Oh
in the
yeah.
first episode. But since
Yeah, I can honestly see exactly why. The difference is the head shape, the fact that the mono eye, like the eye thing, is really huge. It has this little beak thing, and the body shape. But yeah, I love it. I like these units. I don't know why. I might be a little sad when I run out of these boys, because then you guys are gonna be like, Fable, react to other units, and I'm gonna be like, cry.
we have a variant, let's look at the model number. Now you're gonna see the same as the 8 guy with MSM-04, but with the Agguguy, you're gonna see an N at the end. Now we don't have anything official, but Xeon's naming scheme is they like to add letters at the end of the number to determine a variant. An example will be the
Interesting.
MS-06 Zaku. And a variant of that, which is the Zaku Desert type, would be the MS-06D, D standing for desert. So
Oh,
my
okay, that
reasonable
makes sense.
conclusion is that the N either stands for next or new, just because it is the next line of 8 guy or it is the new variant of the 8 guy. Now this does seem a little odd, however we do have a similar naming scheme with the MSM or 7N Zagok Ram, which
The
also has the
Scott.
N at the
Ooh, I love the colors. So here's the thing. I already kind of explained it. I honestly don't care for Xeon, nor do I care for the Federation. I just like the units.
and it's also a variant of an amphibious mobile suit that's oriented towards close quarters combat. But if you guys have a better guess or you actually have some source that explains it, please leave it down in the comments. But anyways, let's head on to the Agguguy with his appearance, and there's a lot to unwrap here. First, being a variant of the 8 guy, we can see the similarities with the chest and the joints, pretty
Oh
obvious
yeah.
there, but there are some fairly obvious differences, such as the head and arms. So let's dive into the head. And first thing is, it's very strange shape. Having a weird crescent moon shape with edges looks really off, and how it's positioned on him, it looks like the bottom end of an anchor. But the oddities don't end there, because right in the middle of his head is his mono eye, and it has a very similar pathway to the head, being able to just go in that crescent shape. And this is radically different from the 8 guy, because if both of them were stationary, the Agguguy with his main camera mono eye can only see in front of him, while the 8 guy could see in front of him, all around him, and even above him. But
It's
let's not
true.
forget the elephant in the room. Well, this is multiple elephants in the room, so let's tackle one of them. Because if you spend more than 1 second looking at him, you're noticing a extra large mono eye. Now
Yee.
besides looking like the eye of a bug, we can easily just see that it's much more sophisticated than any other normal mono eye. Now how sophisticated, we don't know, and in general,
Oh
we don't
really?
know much about it. So
Oh.
what's the purpose of this massive mono eye? Well, we could assume it's an advanced mono eye that could be an experimental type that Xeon was testing. But that just seems really odd in my opinion, since the only thing that comes close to having a eye sensor like this would be the Zaccarello, which kinda looks
The
similar,
Zaccarello? Oh, that's a weird unit.
but I
I
don't
like how I like how it has a tattoo on its shoulder. It's kind of funny, the hearts. That's adorable to me.
see why Xeon would test an experimental mono eye on a close combat amphibious mobile suit. One theory could be that they were originally supposed to be a Recon 8 guy, however early in development it got scrapped and turned into the Agguguy. Now, there's no information about a Recon Agguy. The only thing we have is in Gundam Thunderbolt, which is a different continuity with the Agguy
Ew,
reconnaissance type.
Thunderbolt.
But Zeon did have Recon mobile suits, such as the Zaku Recon, so having an Amphibious reconnaissance mobile suit would make sense. So why did they scrap a Recon Agguy and turn it into a close quarters variant? Well, I don't know, your guess is as good as mine. Now, if we saw this Monoai in future mobile suits or maybe even mobile armors, maybe this would start to make sense, but we just don't see it anywhere, which leads to another theory, and it's a fairly simple one, which most likely is the correct one, and that is, it looks cool. The simple theory of
Simple and fair. It just looks
the
cool.
rule of cool states that if it looks cool, I don't need to explain shit, which
Oh my
makes
lord.
sense. Because when you think about it, can you imagine the Agguguy with a regular Monoai? Looks weird. And better yet, can you imagine a regular mobile suit or another amphibious mobile suit with the Agguguy's Monoai? That looks terrifying, so yeah. Maybe it just looks like this because it's cool. So let's go over some history. The Agguguy was developed during the One-Year War at California base by Zeonic Company, and was one of the many mobile suits meant to be deployed during the Battle of Jaburo. However, because Char found a secret subterranean entrance and decided the best course of action for some reason would be to launch an early attack, much earlier than originally planned, this caused a good amount of panic within Zeon and a major change in plan, throwing the
Makes
initial plan
sense.
out the window. Now get used to
Fucking
hearing this
Char.
story or this little segment a lot because like the Agguguy, there's a good handful of amphibious mobile suits and just mobile suits in general that were meant to be deployed during the Battle of Jaburo but didn't for the aforementioned Char reasons. So I'm gonna have to repeat this part a good amount of times in this series. So it's a little in the air with some of these mobile suits. Did they get deployed during the Battle of Jaburo? Did they not? Well, in one hand, we can look at it as they got deployed very late into the battle while Zeon was already losing, so they didn't do much. And in the other hand, they didn't. And for the second reason, we could look at it as Zeon got caught massively off guard, with good reason, thanks Char, and focused their deployment on their main troops, since the guys like the Agguguy and such were more meant for stealth purposes,
Makes
and the
sense.
sneaky route was something they didn't have at the moment, obviously. Now, thankfully, this isn't the Agguguy's only mention, because he does appear very slightly in Double Zeta. There's also a small appearance in a Gundam manga, and for a much more
Oh.
interesting and weird one, in Mobile Suit Crossbone Gundam Dust, he does make a cameo in sorts. There's a mobile suit called the Carmen, and this is just a hodgepodge of just a bunch of
What in the world is that? Look at that thing. It's like a junk unit, but not necessarily. Pretty sure if Mert sees this, he's gonna tell me this is not really a junk unit, but you know
mobile
what I
suits
mean.
put together. Like someone just MacGyvered a mobile suit with old mobile suits, and if you notice the arm, it looks fairly familiar, and because it's the Agguguy's head, and it's really interesting to look at because you have a Agguguy which is much earlier into UC, and just comparing the size of this guy's head to the rest of the mobile suit, you really get to see how small mobile suit technology has become in this late in UC. Now let's segue ourselves into stats and his very limited equipment, and since he is a variant of the Agguy, we're going to be comparing the two often. So both of them are practically the same height, which comes to no surprise, but in
Makes
terms of
sense.
weight, the Agguy is shown to be heavier than the Agguy, and that's due to him having more armor, and specifically he is described as being heavily armored. This does take a toll on his top speed and his overall speed as well, where the Agguy has been shown to be slower than the Agguy. However, the Agguy is still shown to be a nimble, quick mobile suit. As for generator, they both have the Minovsky Ultra Compact Fusion Reactor, but the Agguy is higher, coming at 2010 kilowatts to the Agguy's 1870. And as for the difference in generators, it could just be a simple reason like the technology got a little better between the development of the two, or maybe that the cooling system that the Agguguy has is slightly better than the Agguy, so his generator can output more power than the Agguy's. It's a simple reason that I don't think they need to explain. So stat-wise, it's everything you expect from a very limited experimental variant mobile suit. So overall, we have an Agguy that's slightly slower, however heavily armored, and much more geared towards close quarter combat. And when I
Makes
say
sense.
much more geared, I mean that's like all he has. The Agguy's only option is to get up close and personal, and once we go over the weapons, you'll understand why, so let's head on over there. So let's go with his most simplest weapon out of the two, and that's just head Vulcans. Fairly simple weapons, the Vulcans located on the head, similar to the Agguy. However, the Agguy had 4 head Vulcans, 2 on each side, while the Agguy only has 2 head Vulcans, 1 on each side, so he does have less firepower in that department, and just overall in that department, just because the head Vulcans is his only range option. Well, you can count this as his only shooting option because his other weapon does have range technically, but in terms of shooting, this is the only thing
Look
he
at the
has.
little guy! Look at him!
But now let's
He's
move on to his
running!
more
Oh, sorry, I gotta
his
look at
top
that. You gotta
range
love that. Look at him! Look at him!
technically. But in
Look at him! I
terms of
love him! I
shooting,
love
this
it!
is
Look
the
at
only
him!
thing he has. But now let's move on
Sorry,
to
I
his
just
more,
love it.
his much more actually noticeable weapon, we could say, and that's those giant metal tentacles he has,
The whips,
specifically 4 of
essentially?
them. The Agguguy has a pair of heat rods located on each arm, and how they're portrayed, they're much less like a rod and much more like a heat tentacle. So before I
Heat
unwrap the
tentacle.
Agguguy's heat tentacles, I do want to talk about the history of the heat rod, just because first I think it will help understand the Agguguy better, because there are some key points about the heat rod that affects this mobile suit, and also I really like the heat rod. It's a very goofy, dumb weapon, but I just really like it because it is on the goof, and I'm a big fan of the goof. And I'm probably never gonna have a chance to talk about it again because there's very few mobile suits that have this thing, and there's actual lore reasons behind that. So sit back and relax as I give you guys a brief history of the heat rod. The heat rod most commonly found on the goof, but specifically the MS-07B goof, which is the goof that Rambaral used. The goof stores said heat rod in his right forearm, and when not in use, it's housed inside, but can extend and deploy out when
I
needed.
kinda like, I kinda like the goof. I wonder, is there information on it, or if anyone would be so kind as to tell me more about it? Because I'm
When in
curious.
use, the goof can use this to smack, whap, slap, whip, or grapple anything you want,
Can you also
which makes this
name?
more of a heat tentacle, like I said. Now, the heat rod isn't just for blunt force or grappling. The heat rod, as the name suggests, can heat up, to no
Makes
surprise. And
sense.
what this does is, like many Xeon melee weapons, it gives this tool cutting properties. Not only that, the heat rod has a second option of shock therapy, being able to deliver a high voltage electrical shock. You don't need to be a genius to figure out why delivering high voltage shocks to the enemy is a fairly nice thing for you and fairly bad for them. Being able to turn parts off, mess with circuits, or just make systems go all haywire, or even shock the pilot. And
Oh, damn.
thinking about that and reading that over, that's pretty brutal. You
That
know?
is very
At the right
brutal. Holy
contact point,
crap.
you can probably electrocute the pilot, which even for Gundam standards is a pretty brutal way to go out.
Kill
So,
them all,
from what it
Tomoro?
said, the heat rod sounds like a pretty tight tool. Like giving a mobile suit a whip and LARPing as Indiana Jones sounds like a pretty nice gig. But with all things, there's some cons, and the problems for the heat rod are few but pretty high. The heat rod's a fairly unique, unorthodox tool, and that's a problem. Being complicated means it's pricey to produce and pricey to repair. If the heat rod gets damaged, you're gonna need to have either A, spare parts lying around for a specific weapon that only like 2 mobile suits have, or B, scavenge parts from destroyed mobile suits that have this weapon, and since this is a rare weapon found in only few mobile suits, you're gonna have a tough time doing that. Not only that, this is something I assume, but I feel like it's a fairly simple point. Something that's not easy to use. The heat rod's not a beam rifle, it's not a heat saber, it's not a beam saber, and it's not a heat hawk. It's a whip. Or at best, it's a giant noodle tentacle.
It's
and
a giant
not
noodle
that many people
tentacle.
will probably naturally be good at using tentacles or whips. Actually, I really don't want to know the people that can do that. But in
Yeah,
general, a
homie, I
lot
think
of
you
people
don't want
might
to,
have a
bud.
lot of problems using this over standard weapons. So overall, we got a tool that's expensive, limited, hard to repair and replace, and not the most user-friendly. And for some of you, you might be thinking, no, it's worth it, the pros outweigh the cons. Well,
Indeed.
for a bit, Xeon thought the same, and that's why they gave the goof to only ace pilots. But over time, they replaced the heat rod with the heat wire, which we won't be getting into, but overall was just a better replacement for the heat rod in nearly all departments. So thank you for listening to that small history lesson, but what does this mean for the Agguguy? Well, bring it all back in, all the pros and cons I just said, amp that up by 4, and now we have this guy. But there are a few things I want to highlight about the Agguguy specifically. First is that the end of his arms where the heat rods come out, he can actually spin those, so he can have them lined up horizontally or vertically, giving each swing a unique pattern. And with having more heat rods means that each swing when superheated is going to deliver even more damage, and when you're using the shock therapy route, you're going to have more points of contact to deliver said voltage. But if you're choosing to go in raw and get really tentacly with your enemy, you're going to have much more things to work with, being able to grapple the enemy at more contact.
Did you really just say go and raw and be very tentatively with your enemies? Why, brother,
Points,
I know
being
you know
able to
what you're doing.
restrain, wrap, and pull them. And while I didn't want to talk about it, I think I have to highlight the problem with the Agguguy that he is fairly limited in options. The only real thing you're going to be doing is running up towards your enemy and trying to heat rod them. Because while he is a stealth mobile suit for stealth purposes, the whole element of surprise isn't gonna happen every time, and besides shooting your low caliber Vulcans, you're gonna have to go in, so either be stealth, caught, or open firefight. Say your last goodbyes, ask the Emperor for protection, and Naruto runs straight in. So besides that, let's just hope your faith and heavy armor can last you until you get into
Brother,
tentacle
fuck
distance to
something.
the enemy. But it's not all down, we do have a few ups. The Agguguy does have the power of knowledge on your side, since there is a very high chance the enemy has no goddamn hell of a single clue what on earth or in space is running towards them at full speed, so maybe the enemy might be in shock long enough to think that Xeon has weaponized giant tentacle bugs. But in all seriousness,
Weaponized
you don't want
giant
to be in a
tentacle
position where the
bugs. Good
enemy has a
lord.
vague idea what your mobile suit does, knows where you are, and has weapons that can deal with your armor. Because you're in that situation and
Damn,
you
look at
cannot
them.
run
Look at
away,
them
well,
whips. Jesus.
it's been nice knowing you and you serve Xeon well. And that wraps up everything I wanted to say about the Agguguy's base weapons. However, like the 8-guy, the Aggu can detach his forearms, which could lead to easy repairs or other equipment attachments. So let's look at those. And surprisingly, the only option he has been shown with are these iron nails that are described to be similar to the Zagox. Now, a very important thing I want to stress is that they're described to be similar to the Zagox. These are not the Zagox iron nails, and what I mean by that is when the Aggu has these equipped, he does not get the beam weapon that are housed in the Zagox hand, he only gets the iron nails. So I don't need to go into
Every time I hear iron nails, I literally just think of Warhammer. I'm so sorry.
detail on why this is such a massive downgrade from your heat rods. While a little more reliable, yes, but this is something you really don't want to be deployed in. And another surprising note is that the Agguguy, while a variant of the 8-guy, has never been shown to be deployed with the 8-guy's arm attachments. I see no reason why he can't attach them, and honestly, that seems like a really good idea to do. Have a heat rod in one arm and have your mega particle cannon in the other arm, or have the missiles or something. Like, I feel like that would be a really good idea. It's just for whatever reason, we never seen the Aggu with the 8-guy's attachments. Or maybe this could just be that the Agguguy had such limited deployment times that they never really got time to experiment with the mobile suit. So let's wrap things up and move on to some redesigns. First up is Gundam Thunderbolt, and it looks like a variant of the Thunderbolt 8-guy.
I hate it. I hate it. It's just, I understand why Gundam Thunderbolt's designs look like they're basically made to go to war at any second, because technically it is, from what little my friends have told me. God, do I hate it.
which it should. But the only thing I want to highlight is its really weird body, which I don't know why I find it so strange that it looks humanoid. But the more
Hate
important
that,
thing is that the
actually.
heat rods are depicted to be much thinner, but really, really long. Like these things are just dangling on the floor, and that honestly looks dangerous. And the final redesign is made by Kazushika Kondo, and this one looks very interesting.
Oh, it
This
does,
drawing's
actually.
all I
Jesus.
found of it, and this is a really interesting redesign. First of all, the head is a completely different shape. It has a normal mono eye, but it has this thing in the top which kinda looks like a giant eyeball. And honestly, this thing looks organic in a way
It
because of that,
kind
and it
of
is
does. I don't like
terrifying.
that.
Also, if you look at the head, maybe I'm
I don't like when organic stuff meets excuse me, Jesus. I don't like when organic stuff meets metallic. I don't like biotech. I really don't. It's so unnatural to me, but I know some people like it, and I'm just like, hey, I'll power to you. I'm not gonna really explain why I like it unless you pay me. I just don't think they mix well. It's gross.
just seeing it, but it looks like a cyclops. Like if you look at that eye, that looks like the main eye, and the mono eye slot looks like a mouth, and the mono eye looks like a single tooth. I hope you guys see it, and if you guys do see it, oh god, it's terrifying.
Oh
But
yeah.
the final thing to note is on the arms, we do have the slots that have the heat rods, so these are just tucked in. But also we have these large pincer claws as well. So this Agguguy can heat rod someone, pull them in, and just give them the good old snip with the pincers. So that's a really cool redesign that I actually like, maybe a little more than its actual design. But let's finish this off now. And the Agguguy was made to be an 8-guy variant for close quarters combat, and while they did achieve that, he was overall one-dimensional at best. And sadly, since Char's little mishap, we won't know how the Aggu would perform during that time, since with the inclusion of beam weapons, his thick armor and rush tactic will not be the best option. And paired with his odd expensive weapons that later mobile suits would end up dropping, the Aggu is a relic of the past, but he still has a special place in my heart. And I think it's sad because I believe the Aggu would have been effective during the Battle of Jaburo and just in the 1-year war, because with beam weapons not being in mass, the Aggu's thick armor would have been ample enough to tank some machine gun fire, so if he chose his battles correctly, implemented a hit and run tactic, he would show some pretty good results. But sadly, we'll never see that. Now I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling about an amphibious tentacle monster, but most importantly, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Amphibious Analysis. Don't forget to like,
Why do
comment,
you have
subscribe,
to
all
say
that
it
good
like
stuff.
that,
I hope you guys
bud?
enjoyed me choosing a much more off-brand mobile suit. I did want to tackle the more niche amphibious mobile suits before tackling the obvious ones just because there's much more information about them. And overall, information about the Agguguy is kinda scarce. There's just not that much information about him. So that's why I went a little off topic with the heat rod, but hope you guys enjoyed that history lesson. But like always, my name is Slothcakes. I hope you guys have a good day and hope to see you in the next video.
Alrighty, guys. If you like this kind of content, do like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I love learning. I love learning about the amphibious units. They're really interesting. I love the designs. If you hear me going crazy over them, it's because I like designs more than anything. So, hope you guys don't mind. And if you do, well, I'm sorry to tell you, that's just how I am. Stay safe. Be good people. Drink plenty of water. I know life's really scary right now, guys, and I'm not gonna say everything's gonna be alright because I don't actually believe that myself, but yeah. Just be good people, hug your parents, tell the people you love them, and stay safe, okay? Alright, bye guys. Remember, be good people, and I hope you all find a partner that loves you for who you are. I know it's random, but I told two of my ex-friends now and I just want to let you all know that, okay, bye. Stay safe.